Hello and welcome to this third and final video on how Barracuda sets landmarks in the next generation firewalls era. My name is Kurt Martens and I am the pre-sales manager at Kappa Data. Kappa Data is a value add distributor and we are present in Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg and recently started a cooperation with Kontika Solutions in Poland. This is a third and last video of a series on the Barracuda NextGen Firewall F-Series, or using the previous naming convention, the Barracuda NG Firewall. In our previous videos, we went through all security and connectivity features of the NextGen F-Series firewall, so if you want to learn more on that part, please go and watch the videos previously. In this video, we will go through some of the management and monitoring stuff. The Barracuda Control Center, also known as a centralized management solution for the Barracuda NextGen F-Series firewalls, maintains a management tunnel to all of the connected firewalls. The distant firewall will initiate a management tunnel to the control center, which enables you to access all connected firewalls through this single pane of glass. It is important to understand that this tunnel is only used by Barracuda to actually manage and monitor the firewalls. Sometimes it happens that you run into a multi-site project where the end customer has a high number of firewalls to manage and actually they can justify the upfront investment to buy their own control center. With this solution, they can lower their total cost of ownership as configuration changes can be pushed to multiple firewalls at once. Think about the graphical VPN tunnel interface where you drag and drop connections between two or more boxes. Think also about a distributed firewall policy that is deployed to all branch offices with the same set of security policies and can be maintained with a single action. Also, firmware upgrades and hotfixes need to be deployed several times a year to keep your firewalls up to date. So, in that case, you can schedule the upload and activation to hundreds of firewalls at once. Now, think about your own business as a partner or reseller that needs to support many different firewalls for many different customers. Wouldn't it be nice to be able and use such a kind of control center without making any upfront investment? Well, with the control center, you have an overview of all your firewalls. The control center polls the firewall at regular time intervals and visualizes the status, events, and resources of that device. A green-colored firewall indicates that everything is running without an issue and that there are no event logs of any means to be read. Orange color indicates that there are minor events waiting to be read by the admin, and the red colored firewalls means that there are high critical events waiting. We also have red question marks, and the red question mark means that the management tunnel is not connected and could indicate that the system is down or that there is an internet break. Besides the graphical VPN tunnel interface, the live status polling, the distributed firewall, and the central starting point for managing, monitoring, and troubleshooting your firewalls, the control center brings even more functionality such as automatic configuration backup, template configurations, or the so-called repositories to speed up and streamline your configurations of multiple firewalls, a central place to update your firmware files or maintain your licenses, and last but not least, have a multi-tenancy and granular administration concept with different workspaces at your disposal. Now, Kappa Data believes that the added value of the control center should be affordable for all customers and not only privileged to the big multi-site projects. Therefore, Kappa Data has decided to host this control center in a geo-redundant data center and offer this platform to our partners and resellers on a a pay-as-you-go model. You as a partner sells the NextGen F-Series firewall to your end customer and combine it with a small annual subscription fee to link that firewall to our control center that you can use. You as a partner will have access to all your end customers' firewalls, and if needed, we can even grant access for those end users that require to have access to their firewalls as well. Of course, we only grant access for them if requested by the partner or reseller. As an example, for a 1-year subscription to Kappa Data's hosted control center, you pay less than 45 euros per year to connect to the smallest or even the biggest NextGen F-Series firewall available. You as a Barracuda partner can bundle our offerings together with your own set of value-added services. Some partners bundle this with, for example, a yearly security audit or weekly reporting, free support and firewall policy changes for the next upcoming 100 time units, or always make sure that the firewall runs at the latest firmware version at all times. Now let's have a look and feel of the graphical user interface of the Barracuda NextGen firewall. To configure the firewall, you have to use the ng-admin. This is a Windows utility and comes as a single file executable and even runs from a thumb drive. When starting the program, I get to decide if I connect to the box directly or if I rather connect to a control center. Now, let's choose the hosted control center from Kappa Data, and I will use my credentials as if I would be a reseller with just a single end customer connected for the moment. As soon as I'm logged in to the control center, I have the live status polling view where I can see one single category or end customer highlighted. In case I have multiple end customers, I will have many different so-called highlighted clusters, and each cluster contains at least one or more firewalls. Now here with Kappa Data, we have currently a firewall in Poland, we have one in the Netherlands, and one in our data center, of course, to protect our own control center, and at the headquarters here in Ghent, Belgium. Let's take a closer look to our headquarters firewall. If I mouse over the firewall, I see 3 different icons. If I click the firewall icon, a new connection will be initiated through the management tunnel to that particular firewall. Now, at this moment, I'm connected to the firewall itself, landing straight to the live connection page. We will come right back to this, but first let's start with the monitoring view. This window gives a high-level overview of the live traffic and the related risk rating. This rating is the average of all applications that are being used at this very moment. I can see the number of clients and the amount of traffic that each of these applications are using at the moment. If I click on one of these applications, a filter will be applied and I jump directly to the live menu that shows me all running connections related to this application. So it is a quite easy way to drill down and see more details if needed. Okay, now let's go back to the monitoring window. On the right side, I see some historical data. This data shows the top 10, 25 or 50 of the past hour, day or week. Now, okay, let's go with this set of information. The firewall will gather all the details of that period and shows me a drill down result. It starts with the applications. Next we have the protocols, traffic by risks, geo-source and destination locations, application categories, URL pages, users, URL categories, and so on. Now let's go and filter through this past week's information and try to find the main user that was using this social media application. Now let's take a look to our live monitoring. This shows information not only related to the typical source IP port numbers, but it also shows the application, user, interface, URL category, and source translation, source netted address. This is especially developed for the support helpdesk employee to quickly filter and sort through all these connections to isolate the cause of the problem without the need to start a command line interface for troubleshooting. A typical example is that an end customer calls the helpdesk at your office, telling them that the internet connection is too slow to work on. So the support engineer can sort on the amount of traffic being used at this instant. So he sorts the bits per second column, and he can see immediately if there are high bandwidth consuming connections running. Now you can right click the highest run rate connection, and you can either terminate the session or change the quality of service rules to the lowest priority, choke, which is barely alive. The download will in this case run at a very, very low speed, but the problem is resolved immediately. Now the support engineer also sees the rule name of the policy where he can make adjustments to prevent this happening again in future. Next, in the History tab, you can find a list of all unique data flows related back to the IP addresses, user and application. Every time a same connection appears, the counter is increased and the timer is being reset, so it shows up on top of the list. The most important thing you can find here is the information related to this historical information. Traffic can be allowed, traffic could be blocked or dropped by rules, antivirus, IPS or URL violations. It can all happen. It can also happen that the traffic fails because the host or port is unreachable. Good. Next, the threat monitor. This one shows an overview of all detected threats like IPS, antivirus, protocol detection and ATD. The ATD monitor shows the files being in programs, the files that were scanned and were valid, malicious and even quarantined. Now let's go and take a closer look at the ATD report. I'll select this executable, right click and download either the full or the summary report. I'll take the full report now. After saving the report, we can have a full view on the analysis, so we will exactly know all actions our little program just made on our own system. Now, beside these monitoring tools, we get a free of charge report creator. This Windows tool can be installed on-premise together with the firewall, or can be installed on a server from, let's say, the partner or reseller. As long as a report creator can access the box, you can generate reports. Select the IP address of the firewall, the type of report you want, specify the layout or make some little changes, and set a unique delivery method that can be either a folder or an email address. And finally, bring everything together and schedule the, let's say, weekly report. All information you can find in the drill down section of the firewall monitor we saw earlier in this video can be found back in this report, all except for user information, to make sure that there are no privacy issues here. So until now we have seen security, connectivity, and the way to operate a firewall. Now let's have a closer look to the different deployment options. The next generation F-series firewall comes to start with as a hardware appliance. The F10, F100, 200 and 300 appliances are older hardware platforms that became less attractive due to the new hardware models starting from the F18. As the new hardware models introduce a high performance on a small sized appliance, we have all features available starting from the F18. It is only the SSL VPN options like basic remote access and premium remote access licenses that are introduced starting with the F180 appliances and up. User authentication, SSL interception, application-based link selection, URL filtering, anti-malware, ATD, WAN optimization and traffic intelligence, all these features are included or optionally available. Note that some products like the F80 and the F180 and even the 280 revision B have an integrated and optional or additional Wi-Fi radio on board. Some of them also have a layer 2 switch built in, such as the F180 and the 280 revision B. Besides the hardware deployment, you can choose to have a virtual deployment instead. The virtual firewall runs on VMware, Hyper-V, KVM and Xen. The number of cores and the number of protected IP addresses, as well as a total number of VPN tunnels, are limited for each model. Starting from the VF1000, you have unlimited tunnels and protected IP addresses available. Finally, we have the public cloud offering from Barracuda. And Barracuda has become the first and privileged partner from Microsoft Azure to offer their next-gen firewall as an approved solution and delivers a lot of connectivity improvements on top of Azure. Now, besides the Azure environment, you can also run the next-gen firewall on the Amazon Web Services and the vCloud Air environment. How about rolling out big environments, or what if you have to replace a firewall in case of a disaster recovery? Well, actually, it is as simple as plugging a thumb drive into the firewall and reboot the system. The configuration file and firmware version that is copied onto the thumb drive will be forced onto the firewall and becomes CEO proof. So whenever you want to buy a next-gen F-series firewall, you always start with the base system. And this can be either the hardware appliance or any of the virtual systems. On top of the base system, you need to buy the Energize updates. This brings you 24/7 support, brought to you by the Barracuda Awards-winning service team, the right to obtain firmware and security updates, and the usage of the URL filtering database from Barracuda. In case you have bought a hardware appliance, it is advisable to buy an instant replacement contract as well. This insurance guarantees you a next business day shipment of a new hardware product in case of a breakdown. Now, whenever your appliance is 4 years old, this insurance gives you the right to claim a free of charge hardware replacement with the latest hardware specifications. That means that Barracuda really helps you selling their products. You only sell the investment once, and thanks to this license model, the end customer changes from the capital expenses to the operational expense model. So the chief finance officer will love this kind of offering. Also an important as the instant replacement license is the control center license from Kappa Data, of course, where you get centralized enterprise manageability on a pay-as-you-go firewall base. And last but not least, there are a few optional subscriptions, such as malware protection or the antivirus scanning engine, with an additional option for advanced threat detection. Also, the SSL VPN with network access control features are available as a separate license. Now, to wrap up the entire Barracuda NextGen F-Series firewall, you get a very attractive set of unique and highly usable security, connectivity and control features in the form of a physical or virtual appliance. Together with the centralized enterprise-grade management features of the Kappa Data's hosted control center, the Barracuda NextGen F-Series will become the one and only firewall you ever want to use. If you have questions or remarks, please don't hesitate to contact us or visit our website at www.kappadata.eu. Thank you and see you next time.